I think that the selection process to get into the SEAL teams is going to weed out a bunch of people that can't recover very quickly from something bad. So you probably heard these type of stories before. The kid that was the star of the football team, the star of the basketball team, the captain of this, the captain of that. He's been winning his whole life. He goes to Buds and he quits. Because in Buds, you're not gonna win. You're certainly not gonna win everything. They're gonna find what you're not good at, and they're gonna exploit that, and you're gonna lose. This is what happens. So a lot of guys that may lose and it disrupts their motivation, they're probably just gonna quit. And so that's why you get this massive attrition rate with guys that are studs. I mean, we're talking Division I athletes, Division I wrestlers, Division I football players, Division I runners and swimmers. They all come to Buds. They all quit. Not all of them quit, but there's plenty of examples of the highest level of collegiate athlete in sports that translate very well to what you're doing in basic SEAL training, and they quit. And sometimes it's because they don't know how to lose. They don't know how to recover from a loss, and they're just so I think already once you get to a SEAL team, you've got people that are, generally speaking, going to be pretty resilient when it comes to dealing with a loss. Not only that, I mean, you just get used to it. You talk about losing people. You're friends with this guy. You meet this guy in SEAL training. Hey, this guy seems like a stud. Oh, he's just going to quit. And you're going to lose 5, 6, 7 people, 8 people. People quit so fast you don't even keep track of them. So you're just going to lose. You're just going to get used to it. So there's that. Now, once you're in the teams, and what you're talking about is now you start taking much more significant loss. You're not losing a race, you're losing one of your friends. And this is what, from a leadership perspective, you have to pay attention to. So when you're a leader in any organization, you're basically in charge of a mob. When it comes to what their morale is, they're a mob, and they feed off of each other just like a mob rioting in the streets, going, oh, we can break this window, let's break all the windows, and they move this mob mentality. And that happens with morale inside of a team. And you as a leader can't get caught up with the mob. You can't let that happen. You have to detach yourself from the mob mentally so that you don't get caught up in their emotions and their morale. Because if you get caught up in their emotions and you get caught up in their morale, you can't correct it. So we go out on a mission. The mission goes great. We get into a gunfight, kill a couple bad guys, everyone's okay, high fives, everyone's feeling great. You come back to base, hey, we don't need to debrief, that was perfect. Hey, we don't need to get our gear, maintained. We can just go to bed, we're awesome. That's when the leader has to say, oh, we've got the mob, and the mob is becoming slightly arrogant. Hey guys, real quick, that was a good op, but there's some things we could improve on. You gotta bring that mob back and bring them back to center line. Same thing in the other direction. You go out on an operation, it doesn't go well. You go out on an operation, you take casualties. Now you come back to base, you see guys moping around, you see the spirit starting to break, and same thing. If you're part of that mob, you'll be with them. Your morale will be breaking. Your spirit will be breaking. You got to look at them and say, oh, I see what's happening. Hey guys, listen up. That was tough. Didn't go the way we wanted it to go. We need to learn some lessons. Here's some things I can do better. What can we do better to make sure that never happens again? What can we do to make sure we have the opportunity to go out and avenge our brother on the battlefield? What can we do to move this thing forward? So as a leader, when it comes to winning and losing, you're generally going to be the person countering what the mob mentality is. Because when the mob starts winning, they want to keep winning and they might get arrogant. When the mob is losing, they might start to lose more because their attitude goes down the drain. So that's what you have to pay attention to from a leadership perspective. For me personally, I know what I did when I lost guys was focus on, all right, we need to celebrate the life. We need to mourn the loss. And then we need to go to work. We need to get our gear back on. We need to lock and load our weapons. We need to get back out there. I know that's what we needed to do. So often the best way to contend with problems, with issues, with adversity is action, is by taking action. The more you sit and the more you wait and the more time you spend with that adversity, with the upper hand inside your head, the worse it's going to get. So for me, always taking action, making something happen. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be some mammoth, triumph that you're going to go and pursue. But if you say, hey, listen, this is what happened, didn't go the way we wanted it to, we're going to get our gear back on, we're going to go back out, we're going to do this other mission. And that's what I think. I think taking action, and it's in your personal life too. Something doesn't go the way you wanted it to go. You didn't get the job you wanted. You didn't get the hire. You didn't get the promotion. You can go home and sit there and dwell on it. That's not getting you any progress. Or you say, okay, you know what? We do a quick analysis. Why didn't I get that promotion? Oh, it's because I didn't get this qualification, or I hadn't jumped through this gate. Okay, cool. What do I need? Let me look into how do I get to jump through that gate so next time I will get the promotion, and you start taking action. So action for me is a cure for a lot of problems that we have in life. What essentially we're talking about is a confidence level, right? So if I go out and win, I feel good about it. And let's say I'm doing a jiu-jitsu tournament, and the first match I go out there and I submit the guy in 30, take him down, submit him in 30 seconds. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like confident, right? So what does that mean? My dopamine is up because I got that victory. My testosterone is up because I got that victory. My confidence is up because I got that victory. Same thing, other direction. If I go out first match and I lose to somebody, my dopamine goes down, that chemical thing goes down, my confidence goes down. And what I have to do is I have to learn how to maintain a level of confidence, because if I win that first match, win the second match, I'm going to kill this next guy, and I go out and I'm sloppy and I don't care, that's when I get caught. If I lack confidence, I go out there and there's nothing I'm able to do to beat this guy, this is going to be horrible. Of course, I'm going to get smashed. So it's a similar thing that we're talking about. I just wonder how much, if you start measuring, because they say, hey, if you win, your testosterone goes up, right? And then if you win more, your testosterone goes up high, your dopamine goes up high, your confidence is going up. But you can get to a point where your confidence is too high, and now you're getting sloppy, and now you don't care. And you mentioned cocaine. You see like videos of people that are all coked up, and hey, I can do this. They think they can do everything. They think they can kick your ass. I'll fight. That's like too much dopamine, too much ego, too much confidence. The other side of the spectrum is someone that's on some kind of downer drug, and they don't feel like they can do anything. They're lethargic, their confidence is low, and they're just depressed. So there's an interesting tie-in between dopamine, ego, confidence, and probably testosterone that you get from winning and from losing. And once again, as a leader, from a leadership perspective, you can't get wrapped up in that. You can't get wrapped up in that. You have to detach from it. You have to be able to take a step back. And then if you're good, even as a competitor, you'll say, oh yeah, that last match was easy, but I need to prepare for the next match. I can't bring overconfidence. Look, I don't want a lack of confidence. It's a balance, right? It's that flame on the oil burning lamp that you're talking about. That you want that steady flame. You don't want too much because it's going to burn out of control. You don't want too little, the flame will go out.
People these days, they say, oh, you got to let your emotions out. You got to let your emotions out. If you got to cry. And I understand where that's coming from. And you can get to a point as a person, if there's something that's really traumatic that's happening and all you do is hold it in. And I've seen guys get destroyed over that because they're not expressing the emotions that they have. But that's at a big level, right? At a daily level, no. You don't express those things. You keep them inside. That's why I say it like that. Like I'm being kind of sarcastic, but at the same time I'm being serious. It's just don't let your emotions out and into the world. Yeah. Keep them for yourself. Own them. Yeah. Keep them for yourself. Don't share them with other people if you don't have to. Yeah. Now, again, people are going to freak out that I'm saying this because you bury your emotions. Because that what happens when you when you've got something really traumatic that you bury, then it eats you apart. And I've talked about that. I mean, talking about things that you go through in life and expressing those feelings that you have about them, that's good. But what we're talking about is not that. What we're talking about is daily emotions, little ups and downs, little tick marks on your Richter scale. We're not talking about an 8.8 on the Richter scale, right? We're talking about just like little twos.
Yeah.
And when you express those 2s and 3s on the Richter scale out to people, you just look unstable. It's a great point that oftentimes expressing your emotions to the world doesn't improve your situation or your position at all. In fact, I would say that most of the time, expressing your emotions to the world sets you back. And that is why I vote in many cases to stifle your emotions. Keep them in.
Yeah.
Don't let other people see. You put your cards on the table, right? You put your emotional cards on the table. Now you can't gamble anymore. You're not in the game anymore. The person knows what's going on. That you're giving it to them. You're not going to know what I'm thinking. You're going to think everything's cool with me. Yeah. We're training jiu-jitsu, right? If I'm getting frustrated and I show that to you, right, what does that do? You're getting, all of a sudden, you just go level up. You think, oh, I got him. He's frustrated right now. He can't. Oh, I'm working. This is working against him. If I'm just saying the same face all the time, which is what I do primarily, hey, same face all the time. Just, moving the same way. When you do get me, I forget what you say. When you get me to react to something good, you say, oh, I recognize a little urgency there. And I always go, damn. I don't want him to recognize. I'd rather just have you just pass my guard and you're just there and me just sit there like it's no big deal because it's not. Then me get all panicky. Yeah. Where then you level up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with life, right? Yep. Every time you express these big emotions to your boss or to your team, you express these big emotions to your team, they see all your cards. Don't let them see all your cards. Is this manipulating? Kind of. Right? This is one of those things where people think, oh, transparency. We hear that all the time these days. Transparency. You got to be transparent. No, actually you don't. You don't have to be transparent all the time. Yeah. You have to win the game. You know what? Does the football coach go out and hand his playbook to the other football team? No. He's got to win the game.
Yeah, typically no.
And that's not how you win the game. So are we, what we're doing? We're playing chess. It's emotional chess. You're playing with other human beings. You want to win. Now, if you're winning so that I can take advantage of you, so I can manipulate you and get something from you that you don't want to give me, that's bad. And I'm not talking about doing that. But if what I'm doing is keeping my calm so that instead of escalating an argument with you, I'm getting you to see it from my perspective just by remaining calm, that's what we're talking about here. Leif told that story the other day where he tells the story a lot because it was a hilarious story where I came in, we didn't have a chance to talk to each other as he was planning this big operation, and I come in 10 minutes before the operation. I said, hey, let me see what you're doing, and he kind of shows me on a map, hey, we're gonna go here, here, and here, and it's like, hey, you should do this instead. And he was like, dude, we're leaving in 10 minutes. And I said, man, but just think about it. And he goes, you know what? Just cancel the op. And he was all mad, right? And he's like, and Jocko kind of like laughed at me. I didn't laugh at him like a jerk, I was like, no, but I was like, hey man, listen, just think about what I'm saying right now. But that's an example. Right. I didn't show my emotions, which would be more like, dude, are you serious right now? You're gonna cancel an op because we have a difference of opinion? Think about what I didn't do that. I was like, hey man, I get it. Ooh. Everyone's stressed out right now. We gotta leave on this thing quickly. Think about what I'm saying though. Look, this is all I'm saying. We could execute this in a better way. So that's what I'm talking about. Does that make me manipulative? No, it doesn't make me manipulative. It makes us as a team do a better job. And as soon as Leif saw that, he was like de-escalated himself. He was good to go. We move on. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. Stifle your emotions at all times. And just to address that though, for real, when you do see the big emotional, impactful things in someone's life and they don't express them, that absolutely is bad. And I'll tell you where you see this a lot is with kids. Yeah. Kids, teens, where there's something bothering them. and they hold it in, because they don't have anybody to talk to. They can't talk to mom and dad because mom and dad don't get it. Their friends are the people that they're pissed off at anyway, so they can't tell them what's going on. So they sit there and they harbor a lot of that anger, and that can be very problematic. And it goes all through adults as well, and at work. Sometimes people, they got problems at home, so they can't talk to their wife because that's what the problem was, and they can't talk to their husband because that's the source of the problem. But then they get to work and they don't want to look like the person that's got problems at home, so they're not going to say anything there either. And the next thing you do, what are they doing? They're trying to escape those problems. How are they doing it? Instead of letting those problems out and talking to somebody about them, they're having a drink in the afternoon, getting on the alcohol, whatever. They're doing something that's negative, and they're not moving forward at all. So those are not the kind of feelings and emotions that you want to subdue or stifle. Yeah. But these little 1s and 2s and 3s on the Richter scale, get control of those things and stifle them.
Well, the fact of the matter is, motivation doesn't matter, doesn't weigh in, carries no weight. It's not part of the program. It really isn't. It's just not part of the program. Being motivated is not part of the program. And look, going through SEAL training, I have often said you don't learn anything going through SEAL training. You don't learn anything. It's just, you're just going to be wet, cold, and miserable. But we talked about this on a recent podcast. There are things that you learn in basic SEAL training that stick with you. One of them is that motivation is worthless. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Because what's going to happen going through SEAL training is you are going to do things that you 100% do not want to do at that moment. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. You've been wet, cold, and miserable. You get dragged up onto the beach. You climb up onto the beach. You get underneath your boat for 7 minutes. You're huddled up with your guys. You're trying to create body heat to get a little bit of warmth. And you start feeling a little bit of warmth. And then the instructor's like, get back in the water. No one in that class wants to get back in the water. 0 people. 0 people want to get back in the water. The motivation level to get back in the water is 0. It might even be -9, right? It is low. And guess what you're going to do? Get out from under the boat, you're going to get back in the water. So what you realize is that motivation doesn't matter at all. What matters is the discipline that you're going to execute what you're being told at that time to execute. Now, the other thing that's happening in SEAL training is, believe it or not, you have a lot of freedom. You have a lot of freedom in SEAL training. You get weekends off. You get a lot of weekends off. Sometimes you get nights off. You have time. You can go you're in one of the most beautiful places in the world, Coronado, California. There's stores out there. There's little bars guys can go to. Then you go from Coronado, you can get a cab. Back in the day, you can get a cab. Now you can get an Uber or a Lyft or whatever. You can go right over into downtown San Diego. Now you got clubs. You got bars, you got things going on, you got women you can chase around. You can go all the way up to Pacific Beach. There's colleges that pour into Pacific Beach, and there's all that mayhem to get into. And guess what? If you want to go out and get into that mayhem, you can. But that costs some people, some guys going through that training, that costs them the ability to make it through training. They either get in trouble or they're not ready for that 4-mile time run on Monday morning. But those temptations are there. And what protects you from those temptations is discipline. That's what it is. So motivation isn't what we are relying on. And we can't rely on motivation. Because like I said, if you and I got to get in the water to go conduct an operation, the motivation to do that will be 0, might even be -9, might be -12, might be -1,000. And you know what? Doesn't matter. You and I are going to go do what we have to do. But going through SEAL training, you're having stuff imposed upon you. This is what you will do now. In a lot of ways, that's easier, right? It's easier to do that. It's easier to get put in the water because you're being told to get put in the water. But what they do is you have those weekends off. You have those times you can get in trouble. You have a 4-mile timed run. There's no pace setting. As a matter of fact, this is a reason they do this. You don't have a watch on. They don't let you have a watch in SEAL training. So you do a 4-mile timed run, you have to make a certain time. You don't know what the time is because you don't know what time it is because you don't have a watch. So you know what you have to do? Run as hard as you can. Same thing with a swim. What do? Swim as hard as you can. Same thing with the obstacle course. The motivation won't be there. 3.5 miles into a 4-mile time run, you're dying. You feel like you're going to die. What do you got to do? You got to have the discipline to keep pushing. Otherwise, you're not going to make the time. So they develop this intrinsic discipline you should carry into the teams so that you continue to stay on the path, and it doesn't take a person telling you that you need to do something. You do it anyways. You don't do it because you're motivated. You do it because you're disciplined. And that's what we have in our minds. What's interesting is, in our minds, we are the general on the battlefield. In our minds, we are the general. We are also the soldier that has to execute. That's what we have in our brains. You come up with a plan. I'm going to work out today. That's the general telling you to work out. The soldier, that's you also, has to go and then execute on that. That's the discipline. And listen, in a normal, real military organization, the leaders put out the word to the soldiers have to execute. Otherwise, everything falls apart. It's the same thing in your mind. The leader in your mind, the general, puts out the word on what needs to be executed. It's you, the soldier, that has to go make that happen. So you get trained, just like you get trained in Marine Corps boot camp or Army boot camp or Navy boot camp, that you're going to respond to those direct orders when they come. You have to train yourself. You have to train the soldier in your mind to obey those direct orders when they come, and that is the foundation of discipline. They will 100% get through whatever level of motivation a human being has. They will burn through that and get to where there's only thing that's left is discipline. The only thing that's left. There's nobody at day 4 of Hell Week that is, like I said, sitting underneath a boat. They get told to get back in the water. Not one of those people want to get back in the water. And do they stand up and say "hoo-yah" and run back in there and act like they are? Yep, 100%, or not 100%, but some guys, false motivation. I was all about that false motivation. They're telling me to do something that's going to suck. I'm going to act like I want to do it. Let's go. But they get through. They burn through that motivation of everybody in that class. That's why so many people quit. And because you think about it, 20 minutes, it's gone, right? That's your assessment. Even if it's something that you love doing, you love whatever, you love going on an op and going on patrol, you love doing that. Cool. Maybe you're a person that it's fun for an hour, 3 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, 12 hours, one day. So they're going to keep doing that to you until you get to 5.5 days of things that suck. And they burn through the class motivation collectively is zero at the end. What you end up with is people that are going to do what they are told to do because they are disciplined. That's what you end up with. And that's what you need. That's the way, you can't negotiate. You don't negotiate with an instructor and say, hey, maybe can we go in a little while? I'm kind of warm right now. You don't get to do that. And clearly, you don't get to negotiate in combat. And that's what it boils down to. There is going to be times in combat situations, when there's gunfire in the street and someone's got to go out and lay down cover fire. There's going to be times where people say, oh, I can die when I step out of this alleyway. I don't want to do this right now. And he's got 15, 20 other people relying on him putting down that cover fire. You can't have someone that says, I'm not sure if I'm motivated to do this right now. What you need is someone that is going to execute what they need to execute through pure discipline. Fear is overcome. Hesitation is overcome. It's not overcome by motivation. It's overcome by discipline. That's why it trumps all these bullshit emotions that are floating around in people's head. I'm scared, I'm afraid, I'm nervous, I'm hesitant, I'm not sure if I want to do this, I'm second guessing, all those little things. They're just overridden by one thing and one thing only, discipline. And that's what it's going to take. So that's why that training is hard, and that's why the result is guys that can go out on the battlefield and they are going to deliver, they are going to execute no matter what they come up against. That is the discipline. So what does that mean to a normal person that doesn't need to go into extreme cold conditions or doesn't need to go into combat situations? Well, guess what? What's strange is people get defeated on a daily basis by things that are much less significant. I mean, infinitely less significant. People get defeated by their alarm clock. People's motivation gets defeated by their pillow. People's motivation gets defeated by a donut. That's what happens. That's the reality of the situation is the will that people have gets defeated by a donut. That's what happens. And they end up in terrible situations. They end up not healthy. They end up having problems. They're not physically capable. All that starts with their will and their motivation being overcome by a donut. So what you have to do is you have to start to recognize that there is something else that you can tap into that is much more powerful than your feelings, than your motivation, and that is discipline. You can apply this discipline. Look, you have a project that's due at work that you don't feel like working on right now. Doesn't matter that you don't feel like working on it right now. You impose discipline on the situation and you do what you're supposed to do. You have an exercise, you need to work out this morning, you haven't worked out yet, you wake up in the morning, you need to go work out, you don't feel like working out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you don't feel like working out. It doesn't matter. It's not part of the calculation. Discipline overrides that. Discipline trumps your feelings. And that is what you need to apply as a person, as a normal human being, no matter what you're doing in your life. You need to let discipline be your guide, not how you feel. That's what we need to do. And if you do that, you're going to end up with freedom. You're going to end up with freedom across the board. Discipline equals freedom. That's what I have been saying for a long time. It is 100% factually true. If you allow your feelings to dictate what you do, you will end up being a slave to your feelings at a minimum. But if you utilize discipline in your life, you will end up with the ultimate freedom in everything that you do.
Discipline, it does start with waking up early. It really does. But that is just the beginning. And I always say that discipline is the root of all good qualities. But you have to absolutely apply it to things outside of just waking up early. It's everything. It's working out every day, making yourself stronger and faster and more flexible and healthier. Discipline is eating the right foods to fuel your system. It's about disciplining your emotions so you can make good decisions. It's about having the discipline to control your ego so your ego doesn't get out of hand and control you. It's about treating people the way you would want to be treated. And doing the tasks that you don't necessarily want to do, but that you know will help you or help your team. It's about facing your fears. It takes discipline to face your fears so you can conquer them. And that's what discipline is. Discipline means taking the hard road, the uphill road, to do what's right for yourself and for other people. It's so often the easy path that calls to us to be weak for that moment, to break down for that moment, to give in to the desire and the short-term gratification. But the discipline will not allow that. The discipline calls for strength and fortitude and will. It won't accept weakness. It won't tolerate another breakdown. The discipline can seem like it's your worst enemy. But the reality is, discipline is your best friend. It will take care of you like nothing else can. And it'll put you on that path. The path to strength and health and intelligence and happiness. And most importantly, it'll put you on that path to freedom.